4.1 Introduction. In one of the sessions, Dr. Mahima wanted to discuss a very relevant psychological disorder with the learner, namely substance use disorder. And she also asked the learners to answer the above question. The learner provided the following answers. Jenny, learner: Mom, the first thing that comes to my mind is alcohol addiction. Seema, learner: drug abuse. Mom, would that come under these disorders? Rizwana, learner: Mom, I have heard about substance abuse disorders, it is not clear what substance use disorders are. The above answers were good pointers for Dr. Mahima to start her discussion. Dr. Mahima, Jenny, Seema and Rizwana have provided us with good points to start our discussion on substance use disorder. Jenny, you are right when you say that alcohol addiction falls under substance use disorders, and so is Seema when he refers to drug abuse. In DSM-5, the substance use disorder is stated as substance-related and addictive disorders. The disorder includes 10 different classes of drugs, namely, alcohol, caffeine, cannabis, hallucinogens, with separate categories for phencyclidine, or similarly acting aryl cyclohexylamines, and other hallucinogens, inhalants, opioids, sedatives, hypnotics, and anxiolytics, stimulants, amphetamine-type substances, cocaine, and other stimulants, tobacco, and other, or unknown, substances. With regard to the confusion that Rizwana had, substance use disorders were earlier referred to as substance abuse disorders. To define substance abuse, according to Buddy T., it is a pattern of harmful use of any substance for mood-altering purposes. Substances can include alcohol and other drugs, illegal or not, as well as some substances that are not drugs at all. Now the term abuse has been replaced with use because, when we say abuse, we mean that certain substance is used in a way that is not supposed to be used or recommended, and it is possible that individuals use substances but are not addicted, based on criteria given in DSM-5. Seema, learner: Mom, we have now developed a fair idea about what we are going to study in the unit on substance use disorders. Hope, the learners also have developed an idea about what will be covered in this unit, so let us now discuss further about substance use disorders. 4.2 Substance-related disorders, an introduction. Use of different substances to achieve desired psychological effects are common for all individuals. For example, many of us use substances that are addictive to wake up, tea/coffee, to feel energetic, soft drinks and energy drinks, stay attentive, cigarettes, to relax, alcohol, or to reduce pain, painkiller medicines. However, some individuals become addicted to certain substances, that is, they develop a pathological need for the substance, leading to distress and dysfunction to the entire family. Substance-related addictions like alcohol and drug dependencies are serious global concerns for scientists as well as the public. Substance-related disorder is a mental illness in which an individual faces stigma as well as apathy from the public, who consider such individuals to be a nuisance to the society. A number of crimes including sexual assault, rape, and murders are linked to substance use and abuse. Studies report that addictions are maladaptive patterns of adjustment to stressful situations. However, this does not remove personal responsibility from the etiology of substance-related disorders. Personality traits and individual lifestyles contribute to the development of substance dependencies. Alcohol and drug use and abuse, common across all socio-economic strata and age groups, are responsible for immense human suffering and tragic waste of thousands of lives every year. It is one of the most common and difficult to treat problems faced by the society today. India is growing at an incredible pace. Its culture, social values, demographics, and economy is rapidly changing, and all this has impact on its people. According to WHO, 30% of Indian population consumes alcohol regularly and 11% are moderate to heavy users. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, 2015 report, during 1992 to 2012, the per capita consumption of alcohol in India has increased by whopping 55%, the third highest increase in the world. In a meta-analysis study by Reddy and Chandrasekhar, prevalence rate of alcohol and drug use was found to 6.9/1000. Cannabis, heroin, opium, and hashish are most commonly used drugs in India. Some evidence suggests that there is an increase in use of illicit drugs. According to WHO, approximately 28 million people worldwide incur significant health risks by using various psychoactive substances other than alcohol and tobacco. According to a UN report, 1 million heroin addicts are registered in India and unofficially there may be about 5 million. It has been estimated that in India, by the time most boys reach 9th grade, about 50% of them would have tried at least one of the substances of abuse nature. This number may be a modest estimate of the actual prevalence rate since many drug abusers may not seek help. Drug use may occur at any age, but is most common during adolescence and young adulthood. Recent epidemiological research has suggested that the traditional gap between men and women has narrowed when it comes to the development of substance use disorders. Comorbidity with other mental disorders is common. About 37% of people with alcohol use disorder have comorbid mental condition. Given that alcohol is a depressant, depression ranks high among the mental disorders often comorbid with alcoholism. Many alcoholics commit suicide. People who abuse alcohol pose danger for themselves and others. Over half of deaths and injuries caused by automobile accidents are related to alcohol use and is frequently associated with violent and non-violent crimes relative to other drugs like marijuana. In this unit, we will focus on the substance use disorders, alcohol use disorder, and drug use disorders. Their causes and treatment will also be discussed. 4.2.1 Important terms related to substance-related disorders. DSM-5's chapter on addictions was changed from substance-related disorders to substance-related and addictive disorders to reflect changes in our understanding of the concept of addictions. DSM-5 asserts that addiction should be enlarged to include not just psychoactive substances, but also types of behavior such as gambling that shows similarity in experiences and biology of those addicted to substances like alcohol, nicotine, heroin, cocaine, etc. The following terms are important to understand substance-related disorders. Psychoactive substances. Psychoactive substances are those that affect the mental functioning of an individual by affecting one's central nervous system, CNS. Psychoactive substances are classified as sedatives, alcohol and barbiturates, stimulants, caffeine, cocaine and amphetamines, opiates, opium, morphine, codeine, and heroin, hallucinogens, cannabis, like marijuana and hashish, LSD, PCP etc., and tranquilizers, Valium and Xanax. Some of these substances are not even considered as substance of use and abuse by the public, for example, caffeine, and some may even be culturally sanctioned, such as the consumption of bhang, a preparation of cannabis, on festivals like Holi in India. Adults can purchase some substances from shops near their homes like alcohol and nicotine legally. Other substances can only be purchased through a medical prescription. Pain medications like morphine and anxiety medications like Valium. Still others, such as heroin, ecstasy, and methamphetamine, are illegal. Substance use refers to ingestion of psychoactive substance in moderate amount that does not significantly interfere with social, educational or occupational functioning. For instance, use of alcohol is normal in many family gatherings in certain cultures. Similarly, everyone is familiar with the use of caffeine in daily consumptions of tea and or coffee. Substance intoxication. Intoxication refers to the body's reaction to the ingested psychoactive substance. It involves changes in psychological states, for example, impaired judgment and mood changes, and physical abilities, problems in waking and talking. Intoxication is the physiological reaction to the ingested substance, drunkenness or getting high. Intoxication or physiological effect of a substance depends on the type of substance uses, amount taken, and individual differences in biological reaction. Substance abuse refers to maladaptive drug use, that is, repeated and excessive use of substances to the point that recurring problems are evident. For instance, if a person likes to binge drinks and ends up in regular fights with people around him /her. Others will perceive such an individual as obnoxious and people will eventually stop calling him /her for a get-together. Substance abuse involves use of a substance to the point that it affects one's academic, personal, interpersonal, social, and occupational functioning and or subjects to self or others to physical danger. Substance dependency / addiction refers to more severe forms of substance use disorders characterized by tolerance and withdrawal symptoms that greatly affect many areas of their lives and causes a significant amount of distress. First, tolerance is the physiological dependency wherein an individual's body requires increasingly greater amounts of the drug to experience the same effect. Same amount of drug before does not give same effect. Second, withdrawal is the experience of unpleasant effects when the substance is no longer ingested. Withdrawal symptoms range from headaches in the absence of tea / coffee to alcohol withdrawal delirium that can cause hallucinations. It is important to note that, not all drugs show tolerance and severe withdrawal. For example, in case of marijuana or LSD, drug dependence is understood better in terms of drug-seeking behavior. The drug-seeking behavior reflects the desperate need to ingest more of the substance to feel good / relaxed, standing in the cold to smoke or stealing money to buy drugs, and relapse, after a period of abstinence. Thus, even though one may not show tolerance and severe withdrawal symptoms for marijuana / LSD, they may show drug-seeking behavior. This is called psychological dependence. Box 4.1 Some clarifications about substance use, abuse and dependency. Can you use substances and not abuse them? Yes, some people may use substances like caffeine, nicotine, alcohol, marijuana occasionally without abusing them. Can you abuse substances and not become addicted to them? Yes. A person may hurt self or be nuisance for others under the influence of alcohol but may not be addicted to it. Can you become dependent on a substance and not abuse them? Yes, people may need to be prescribed addictive drugs by doctors for medical treatments, and may show symptoms tolerance and withdrawal. For instance, cancer patients may be dependent on morphine, but they are not abusing it. If substance use and dependency are different, why do countries prohibit use of substances? It is difficult to predict ahead of time about an individual who is likely to lose control and become addicted to drugs and who is not. Thus, many countries and cultures emphasize on total abstinence of drug use. 4.3 Substance use disorders. An 18-year-old girl was a student at a private university in Delhi who enjoyed partying more than most of her friends. While most of her friends thought of college as an opportunity to make a career and life, Afsana entered college with the intention of socializing and having as much fun as possible. She was academically a high achiever who scored 97% in Class 12 CBSE and was easily able to get into one of the best colleges. In college she found herself overwhelmed by professors' demands for extensive written projects, reading assignments, and oral presentations. She also went through dissolution of a romantic relationship with someone she had known since school. She would often feel low and upset. Millie was somewhat impulsive, extroverted and gregarious. She blended easily into parties, made friends, and found sexual partners with ease. During these parties, she would drink alcohol excessively and would often drive back to her home in early morning hours after the party got over. She occasionally smoked marijuana. Using these substances eased her concern about demands of college and satisfied her personal need for attention and companionship. Her college attendance was very poor and unfortunately, she failed all but one paper in her first semester. The next semester, Millie vowed to work hard in college. This strategy worked for the first 2 weeks. She soon became bored and started attending parties where she could drink alcohol again. Over a period of time, she realized she needed to drink more alcohol to experience the same high that she used to earlier. Soon, she began to experiment with new and different drugs such as methamphetamine and LSD. She realized that she almost ran out of money from buying alcohol and drugs. She stopped attending classes and spent much of her time watching TV, sleeping and surfing the internet. She even started drinking at her rented accommodation, PG. It was common to find her passed out at parties after which her friends would get her back to the PG, but recently she had started passing out in her PG. The local guardians informed her parents, who immediately took her to a rehabilitation facility. At the rehabilitation center, Millie underwent a painful process of drug withdrawal and even more painful process of admitting to her parents about what happened to her in the past 1 year. A major change from DSM-4 to DSM-5 is the removal of the 2 categories of substance-related disorders, substance abuse and dependency, and their combination into a single substance use disorder. This is because researchers found that reliability of substance abuse category was poor and substance abuse and dependency often co-occur. Substance use disorder involves ingestion of psychoactive substances in excessive quantity. There may be a need to cut down on the usage, but the person finds it difficult to do so. The individual ends up spending a lot of time in trying to procure, use, or recover from the substance, and is likely to give up on important social, occupational, or recreational activities because of substance use. The substance use affects the individual's functioning at home and work, and negatively impacts important relationships. The individual may continue to use the substance in spite of the danger it poses to him/her and leads to physical or psychological problems. Finally, the use of the substance may lead to development of tolerance and withdrawal symptoms. An important addition to the diagnostic criteria in DSM-5 is the dimensional classification according to severity of symptoms. Presence of 2 to 3 symptoms is classified as mild, 4 to 5 symptoms classified as moderate, and 6 or more symptoms being classified as severe substance use disorder. DSM-5 has grouped substance use-related disorders in following general categories: depressants, stimulants, opiates, hallucinogens, and other drugs of abuse, and gambling disorder under non-substance-related disorder. Box 4.2, DSM-5 Criteria for Substance Use Disorder. A mild substance use disorder is diagnosed if 3 of the following criteria are met. People meeting 4 or 5 criteria are classified as having moderate substance use disorder, and severe substance use disorder is diagnosed in cases where 6 or more of the criteria are met. 1. taking the substance in larger amounts or for longer than you are meant to. 2. Wanting to cut down or stop using the substance but not managing to. 3. Spending a lot of time getting, using, or recovering from use of the substance. 4. Cravings and urges to use the substance. 5. Not managing to do what you should at work, home, or school because of substance use. 6. Continuing to use, even when it causes problems in relationships. 7. Giving up important social, occupational, or recreational activities because of substance use. 8. Using substances again and again, even when it puts you in danger. 9. Continuing to use, even when you know you have a physical or psychological problem that could have been caused or made worse by the substance. 10. Needing more of the substance to get the effect you want, tolerance. 11. Development of withdrawal symptoms, which can be relieved by taking more of the substance. 4.4 Alcohol use and dependence disorder. The World Health Organization defines alcohol dependence syndrome as a state, psychic and usually also physical, resulting from taking alcohol, characterized by behavioral and other responses that always include a compulsion to take alcohol on a continuous or periodic basis in order to experience its psychic effects, and sometimes to avoid the discomfort of its absence. Tolerance may or may not be present. As can be seen in the case study, in response to the overwhelming demands of the college life, Millie began to drink excessive alcohol at parties in which alcohol was easily available. She stopped attending college and even failed her first semester exams. She put herself in hazardous situations as she would often pass out at these parties or would drive back to her PG drunk. She would often run out of money as she spent all her money on buying alcohol. In spite of making attempts to give up on alcohol, Millie was unable to stay away from drinking alcohol for more than 2 weeks after leaving. She developed tolerance since she needed to drink more alcohol to experience the same high that she used to earlier. Effect on the brain. Although alcohol is a depressant, its initial effect is that of a stimulant because the inhibitory centers of the brain are initially slowed down. There is a general experience of well-being when inhibitions are reduced, and people become more outgoing. At higher levels, it depresses brain functioning by inhibiting the brain's excitatory neurotransmitter, that is, glutamate. Higher-order cognitive functions like judgment, rational thinking, self-control, inhibition etc. are diminished. For example, a drinker may indulge in sexual uninhibited behavior, which is otherwise inhibited. They may misjudge their ability to drive a car. Perceptions of cold, pain and other discomfort are dulled. Alcohol generates general feelings of warmth, well-being, and expansiveness. Resultantly, the individual begins to show affection towards his family and friends. Individual experiences lack of motor coordination, slurring of speech, vision impairment, and the thought processes are confused. When alcohol blood concentrations reach 0.5%, the person passes out. Alcohol concentration greater than 0.55% is usually lethal. Effects of alcohol depends on a. Amount of food in stomach, b. Duration of drinking, c. Physical condition, d. Metabolizing rate of alcohol. For instance, women have lower than men. In excessive and frequent abuse, brain accumulates diffuse organic damage even when no extreme organic damage symptoms are present. Physiological effects. Alcohol affects various parts of the body. It goes to the stomach and then to the small intestine where it is absorbed in bloodstream. Circulatory system distributes it throughout the body. Finally, as it goes into the liver, it is metabolized and broken down. Metabolization of alcohol uses a lot of water that may cause dehydration, headache, dry mouth, and tiredness, which is experienced as a hangover. Large amounts of alcohol may overwork and damage the liver, causing cirrhosis. Approximately 15–30% heavy drinkers develop cirrhosis of liver. Alcohol is a high-calorie drug, but contains empty calories, which means that alcoholic beverages have no nutritional value. This is why many heavy and long-time drinkers suffer from malnutrition. In longer term, chronic abuse of alcohol impairs the body's ability to absorb nutrients, so it becomes difficult to overcome the problem, and having vitamin pills also cannot make up the nutritional deficiency. Gastrointestinal problems are also common in people with alcohol use disorder. Overall, alcohol reduces the lifespan of an individual by 12 years than the average person. Psychosocial effects. In addition to physiological effects, a chronic and heavy drinker of alcohol usually suffers from oversensitivity, depression, and chronic fatigue. For many people, alcohol may be used as an emotional coping strategy by dealing with stresses of life temporarily, as it leads to feelings of well-being and self-worth. However, excessive and frequent use of alcohol may lead to impaired judgment, poor reasoning, and deterioration of personality. People who have been using alcohol for a long time tend to become irresponsible. Their personal appearance and hygiene may be affected, and they tend to become neglectful of spouse and family. Alcohol also makes people vulnerable to many injuries and perpetrate intimate partner violence. Loss of employment and relationship is a common repercussion of chronic alcoholism. According to a study by WHO, alcoholism in India is one of the major causes of poverty in India. Psychosis associated with severe alcohol abuse. Excessive and long-term use of alcohol can result in severe mental health problems. People may experience acute psychotic episodes characterized by temporary loss of contact with reality, confusion, excitement, and delirium. In people who drink excessive alcohol for a long time, a reaction called alcohol withdrawal delirium can be seen if the person enters a state of withdrawal. In alcohol withdrawal delirium, the person experiences disorientation to time, place, vivid hallucinations, animals like snake, lizards, roaches, extreme suggestibility, fear, hand tremors, fever, rapid heartbeat, etc. It may last for 3 to 6 days, and the person is badly scared. It may also cause death because of convulsions and heart failure. Another alcohol-related psychosis in older alcoholics who have been drinking for a long time is the alcohol amnestic disorder, formerly known as Korsakoff's syndrome. In this condition, the individual has memory defects along with falsified memories. The person appears delusional, delirious, and disoriented. He is unable to recognize objects and people they have just seen, so they confabulate to fill in the memory gaps. The symptoms of alcohol amnestic disorder are now linked to vitamin B, thiamine, deficiency and other dietary inadequacies. However, diet rich in vitamins and minerals generally has not been found to restore the patient to normal physical and mental health. Research suggests personality deterioration along with some memory impairments remain. 4.5 Drug use and dependence disorder. Apart from alcohol, the psychoactive drugs most commonly associated with abuse and dependence include 1. Narcotics, such as opiates or opioids, including opium and heroin. 2. Sedatives, such as barbiturates. 3. Stimulants, such as cocaine and amphetamines. 4. Hallucinogens, such as LSD. 5. And other miscellaneous drugs like inhalants, steroids, OTC, prescription medicines, etc. As discussed previously, most of these substances are illegal or need medical prescription for their use. However, DSM-5 has also classified dependency on other substances like caffeine and nicotine that can be easily bought by adults. Psychoactive substances differ in two regards. 1. Dependence potential, loss of control over drug use or the compulsive seeking and taking of drugs. 2. Lethal dose ratio, the dose at which given percentage of subjects will die. Heroin is the drug with highest dependence potential, followed by morphine, nicotine, and cocaine. Marijuana, caffeine, and ketamine have moderate dependence potential. Finally, hallucinogens like LSD and psilocybin have low dependence potential. In spite of these differences, significant use and abuse of all these substances can have many negative consequences for an individual and the family members and has been classified as substance use disorder in DSM-5. Opium and its derivatives. Narcotics. Opiate refers to the natural chemicals in the opium poppy that relieves pain and induces sleep. Morphine, heroin, codeine are three powerful class of opiates that are abused. They are commonly introduced into the body by smoking, snorting, eating, or through hypodermic needles. Heroin usage leads to an initial euphoric spasm, rush, lasting 60 seconds, which many addicts compare to sexual orgasm. It is typically followed by a lethargic state in which bodily needs, food and sex, are reduced. Pleasant feelings of euphoria and relaxation tend to dominate. This state lasts for about 4 to 5 hours, which leads to a negative phase where addicts experience an intense craving for the drug. Since the dependence potential of heroin is very high, physiological dependency usually develops over continual use for 30 days. Users get withdrawal symptoms experienced as physical illness approximately 8 hours of last usage as physical illness. Opiate withdrawal is an extremely painful experience for some people with symptoms including runny nose, tearing eyes, perspiration, restlessness, and an intensified desire for the drug. As time passes, the symptom become more severe. Person experiences chilliness that alternates with vomiting, diarrhea, flushing and excessive sweating, abdominal cramps, pains in the back, and insomnia. Occasionally symptoms include delirium, hallucination and manic activities. These symptoms usually disappear on 7th to 8th day. After this, the individual's former tolerance for drug is reduced. As a result, there is a risk that taking the former large dosage might result in overdose. Heroin addicts experience ill health and general personality deterioration that may not result directly from pharmacological effects of the drug, but are products of financial strain, lack of proper diet, loss of social position and self-respect as an addict becomes more and more desperate to procure the required daily dosage. People often resort to lying, stealing, and or prostitution to support the habit. Additionally, many addicts are increasingly vulnerable to illnesses like HIV/AIDS and hepatitis because of the use of unsterile needles. Pregnant women who abuse heroin during pregnancy increase the chances of premature birth, low birth weight or miscarriage. Depressants. Apart from alcohol, class of depressants includes sedatives, calming, hypnotic, sleep-inducing, and anxiolytic, anxiety-reducing, drugs. Barbiturates are a powerful class of sedatives that act somewhat like alcohol by slowing down the action of the central nervous system. Physicians use them to calm patients down, and in stronger doses they are able to produce sleep instantly. Overdose of barbiturates, especially along with other depressants like alcohol, is lethal because they result in paralysis of brain's respiratory centers. Other effects include poor decision-making and problem-solving, sluggishness, slow speech, and sudden mood shifts. Physiological and psychological dependence is common in middle-aged and older people who often rely on them as sleeping pills. They are referred to as silent abusers because they take the drug in privacy of their homes and ordinarily do not become public nuisance. Stimulants, in contrast to depressants, stimulants like cocaine, amphetamines, caffeine, and nicotine increase the activity of central nervous system. Like opium, cocaine is a plant extract, and can be ingested by sniffing, swallowing, or injecting. However, unlike the opiates, cocaine stimulates the brain. Cocaine is costly and is generally used by upper-class and affluent members of the society. Like the opiates, it leads to a euphoric state of 4 to 6 hours duration during which user experiences a state of enthusiasm, confidence and contentment. Initially it was believed that tolerance to cocaine does not increase with increased use, however this view has now changed. When cocaine is chronically abused, withdrawal symptoms such as frightening hallucinations similar to those in acute schizophrenia may develop, in addition depression-like symptoms. Cocaine use is linked to unemployment, psychological, and legal problems. Another class of stimulants is the amphetamines, also known as wonder pills, that helps people to stay alert and awake and function temporarily at a level beyond normal. It is one of the most illicitly consumed drug. A popular amphetamine is the methamphetamine. During World War II, soldiers used to take amphetamines to remain active and keep fatigue at bay. In typical population, students and athletes striving to improve their performances use amphetamines. The study by Barrow et al. Concluded that tolerance develops quickly in just 6 days. Common reactions include high BP, enlarged pupils, unclear or rapid speech, profuse sweating, tremors, excitability, loss of appetite, confusion, and sleeplessness. Since they tend to reduce appetite, they are also popular with people trying to lose weight. Users may abuse amphetamines to maintain intense euphoric activity for a few days without sleeping or eating, after which, exhausted or depressed, they sleep or crash for several days. Then the cycle starts again. Amphetamines are not energy pills. They push users towards greater expenditures of their own resources, often to the point of near-fatal exhaustion. Today, they are occasionally used for medical purpose, for weight reduction, narcolepsy, and hyperactivity in children on whom they have a calming effect. Excessive use of amphetamines can cause psychosis, suicide, homicide, assault are also associated with amphetamine abuse. Caffeine and nicotine are two most common psychoactive substances used. Caffeine elevates mood and decreases fatigue. In larger doses, caffeine can make one feel jittery and lead to insomnia. It is called the gentle stimulant because it is thought to be least harmful of all addictive drugs and is found in tea, coffee, and many cola drinks and cocoa products. Withdrawal symptoms include unpleasant mood, drowsiness, and headaches. Nicotine is a poisonous alkaloid in tobacco and found in cigarettes, chewing tobacco, cigar, clove cigarettes, bidis and hookah. In small doses, it stimulates the central nervous system that can reduce stress and improve mood. However, nicotine use is related to high blood pressure, increased risk of heart attack and cancer. It produces high physiological and psychological dependence. For instance, smokers try to maintain nicotine at a steady level in bloodstream, otherwise they are bound to experience withdrawal symptoms including depressed mood, insomnia, anxiety, difficulty concentrating, restlessness, and increased appetite and weight gain. Relapse rates are high in nicotine dependency. Morissette et al. 2007 conclude that nicotine use is highly prevalent among those with anxiety disorders. Hallucinogens, also called psychedelics, hallucinogens are unlike opiates, stimulants, and depressants that affect people by either making them feel up or down. Hallucinogens essentially change the way individuals perceive the world. Psychedelics do not create sensory images but distort sight, sound, feelings, taste, and even smell. A popular hallucinogen is lysergic acid diethylamide, LSD. The street name of LSD is acid. It is an odorless, colorless, and tasteless drug that was first chemically synthesized in Hoffman in 1938. It was thought to be useful to study hallucinogenic states and remained in laboratory until 1960s, when it was first produced for recreational use. After ingesting LSD, a person typically goes through 8 hours of changes in sensory perception, mood swings, and feelings of depersonalization and detachment. For some people this experience can be extremely frightening and unpleasant. Tolerance to LSD develops quickly, however, sensitivity returns after a week of abstinence. For most hallucinations, no withdrawal symptoms are reported. Marijuana is another hallucinogen that was extensively used in US in 1960s and early 1970s. It is the name given to dried parts of cannabis or hemp plant that grows in the wild and is also called weed. Another drug called hashish is a stronger drug which is derived from resin of the plant. Under the influence of marijuana, otherwise normal experiences seem extremely funny, or the person may enter a dream-like state in which time seems to stand still. A person's sense of time is stretched or distorted so that an event that lasts only a few seconds may seem to cover a much larger span or vice versa. Users often report heightened sensory experiences, like vivid colors or greater appreciation of music. There is a strong relationship between daily marijuana use and psychotic symptoms. Long-term usage of marijuana is related to cognitive impairments. Relationships with significant others, and employment are also affected. Continued use produces a lax lifestyle, lethargy and passivity. Other drugs of abuse: young males, 13 to 15 years, from economically disadvantaged families are likely to abuse inhalants like spray paint, hairspray, paint thinner, gasoline, nitrous oxide, laughing gas, nail polish remover, whitener, and felt-tipped marker. The intoxication of inhalants resembles that of alcohol intoxication. Frequent usage builds up tolerance and withdrawal involve sleep disturbances, tremors, irritability, and nausea. Steroids are derived from hormone testosterone and have medical usage, but sportspersons, bodybuilders, and models often use them to enhance performance and body size. Regular use of inhalants, steroids, and painkillers damage the body and are related to mood disturbances. 4.6 Causal factors of substance use disorders. Development of addiction to any substance is a complex process involving the following elements: 1. Addictive property of the substance. 2. Constitutional vulnerability, diathesis. 3. Environmental reinforcement and pressures, stressors. Addictive property of substance. All drugs including alcohol play a role in addiction through activation of the pleasure pathway or the mesocorticolimbic dopamine pathway, MCLP. The MCLP, also called the reward pathway, is related to functions like control of emotions, memory, and gratification. All substances including alcohol produce euphoria by stimulating this area in the brain, thereby reinforcing the use of the substance by making consumption of the substance pleasurable/rewarding. Continued exposure to the brain leads to neurochemical changes, which result in withdrawal symptoms that can be avoided by ingesting the substance. Thus, taking drugs and alcohol is pleasurable and is positively reinforced. Once the individual addicted to the substance, the pleasure reduces but the withdrawal symptoms increase, which can be excruciating. People take drugs /alcohol to avoid them. Some drugs have more intense withdrawal symptoms, for example, heroin, than others, for example, marijuana. Diathesis for substance use disorder. The diathesis for substance use disorder includes the following: biological diathesis. Genetics plays an important role in developing vulnerability to the addictive power of the many drugs. Family studies have provided strong evidence for genetic inheritance of alcohol use disorder. In males, almost 30% of alcoholics had at least one parent with alcohol problems and 40% had both parents with alcohol dependency. Greater concordance for monozygotic twins has been found for nicotine, marijuana and drug abuse in general. Molecular genetics study found that a gene related to dopamine release and reuptake is related to being nicotine addiction. It is important to note that being born to an alcoholic parent and not necessarily being raised by one increases the risk of a person becoming alcoholic. Children of alcoholic parents adopted by non-alcoholic parents were nearly twice as likely to have alcohol problems. Psychological diathesis. In general, high levels of negative emotionality and low constraint, high risk-taking and impulsivity are common psychological traits predictive of future use and abuse of drugs and alcohol abuse. Genetic sensitivity to alcohol use disorders may be related to heritability of these personality traits. Other psychological characteristics of potential alcohol abusers has been including emotional immaturity, expecting a lot from the world, needing a lot of praise or reassurance, strong negative reactions to failures, low frustration tolerance, feelings of inadequacy, impulsivity and aggression. Antecedent personality variables predicted the age of onset of drinking alcohol, like lower lever of behavioral control and resiliency, rebelliousness and sensation seeking, and greater generalized anxiety. Early childhood experiences with lack of stable family relationships and parental guidance can lead to development of psychological vulnerability for substance use and abuse in general in future. Research has examined the role of the following 6 factors that have been significantly associated with development of alcoholism later in life: presence of alcoholic father, lack of attachment to father, acute marital conflict between parents, lack of parental supervision and inconsistent discipline, frequent moving during family's early years, and lack of family cohesiveness. Abuse of substances early in child's life by a parent in life is also strongly associated with substance abuse by their children later in life. The parent in such a situation is seen as a negative role model. Further, the child may see parents' use of alcohol as validation of the act. Moreover, there is a strong association of experiences of stress in such families along with lack of proper guidance by the parents. Early childhood experience of abuse, especially sexual abuse in women, is also linked to abuse of substance abuse later in life. Cognitive diathesis. Some adolescents have grown up with the belief that alcohol/drug use will lower stress and anxiety, increase sexual desire and pleasure, and enhance popularity and acceptance by peers. For instance, in a study, participants who believed they were consuming alcohol but were actually given alcohol-free drink subsequently became more aggressive. According to some psychologists, there is a reciprocal influence of this cognitive belief. Adolescents begin drinking as a result of expectations that using alcohol is related to social success. By contrast, expectations of harm are related to lower likelihood of substance use behavior. Adolescents who perceived great risk with drug use were less likely to use the drug than those who perceived little or moderate risk rate. Finally, greater the expectation's perceived prevalence, everyone does it, greater the use. Since these expectations play a major role in initiation and maintenance of substance use behavior in teenagers, it is important for interventions to focus on altering these social expectations before substance use begins. Box 4.3 Gambling disorder. DSM-5 has grouped substance use-related disorders in following general categories: depressants, stimulants, opiates, hallucinogens, and other drugs of abuse, and gambling disorder under non-substance-related disorder. Gambling has a long history. For instance, dice-related games were part of many civilizations. Yudhishthira in the epic Mahabharata lost all his wealth, his entire kingdom, his brother and even his wife in a rigged game of dice. Some countries have legalized gambling, whereas in other countries gambling is banned. Gambling disorder, also known as pathological gambling, involves continuous or periodic loss of control over gambling, a preoccupation with gambling and with obtaining money for gambling in spite of adverse consequences. In DSM-4, pathological gambling was classified as an impulse control disorder. In DSM-5, gambling disorder has been classified as an addiction. Although gambling disorder does not involve chemically addictive substance, still DSM-5 has classified it as a behavioral addiction because, like substance-related addictions, behavioral addictions also involve short-term gains despite long-term disruption. Gamblers also experience cravings similar to substance abusers. Additionally, researchers have found that there is a high comorbidity between substance dependency, personality disorders and alcohol dependency. Gambling takes many forms: casino gambling, bets on horse racing or sports like cricket betting. It also involves games like internet games, number games, lottery, etc. In either case, pathological gambling significantly affects an individual's social, psychological, familial, and economic well-being. Pathological gamblers may use all their savings, neglect their family's needs, borrow money from friends and relatives, or resort to illegal means to obtaining money for gambling. DSM-5 criteria for gambling disorder are as follows: a persistent and recurrent problematic gambling behavior leading to clinically significant impairment or distress, as indicated by the individual exhibiting 4 or more of the following in a 12-month period. 1. Needs to gamble with increasing amounts of money in order to achieve the desired excitement. 2. Is restless or irritable when attempting to cut down or stop gambling. 3. Has made repeated unsuccessful efforts to control, cut back, or stop gambling. 4. Is often preoccupied with gambling, for example, having persistent thoughts of reliving past gambling experiences, handicapping or planning the next venture, thinking of ways to get money with which to gamble. 5. Often gambles when feeling distressed, for example, helpless, guilty, anxious, depressed. 6. After losing money gambling, often returns another day to get even, chasing one's losses. 7. Lies to conceal the extent of involvement with gambling. 8. Has jeopardized or lost a significant relationship, job, or educational or career opportunity because of gambling. 9. Relies on others to provide money to relieve desperate financial situations caused by gambling. B. The gambling behavior is not better explained by a manic episode. Causal factors. Pathological gambling is a learned behavior that is highly resistant to extinction. Many people who go on to gamble pathologically usually experience winning a substantial sum of money the first time they gambled, beginner's luck. This is variable ratio schedule of reinforcement given by Skinner, where the individual learns to give high and steady rates of response expecting that he would be rewarded, and makes it extremely difficult for an individual to give up. Pathological gamblers have been found to share personality traits. Typically, they are rebellious, immature, thrill-seeking, superstitious, antisocial, compulsive and impulsive. Impulse-driven behavior such as pathological gambling is associated with brain mechanisms involved in motivation, reward, and decision-making. Further, neurodevelopmental events during adolescence affecting these brain areas. Treatment of gambling disorder is similar to other addictive disorders and equally difficult. Pathological gamblers exhibit a denial of their problem, impulsivity and resolute optimism. I will win enough to cover all my losses. Cognitive behavior therapy, CBT, has been popularly used with varied success rates. CBT involves setting financial limits, planning alternative activities, preventing relapse, and imaginal desensitization. A study found that CBT improved its efficiency when it was combined with meetings at Gamblers Anonymous, organization similar to Alcoholics Anonymous. Additionally, positive outcomes in treatment are also found when family relationship concerns are addressed as part of the treatment. Many people with gambling disorder are resistant to treatment. More effective programs must address concerns related to prevention of gambling behaviors. Socio-cultural diathesis. In many cultures, especially in advanced countries, alcohol use is common as it acts as a social lubricant and tension reducer that enhances social events. Socio-cultural acceptance towards alcohol use may be related to high rate of alcohol abuse and dependence in some cultures. In such cultures, alcohol is readily available. For instance, in wine-drinking societies, wine is present in many settings including college canteens and cafeterias. By contrast, negative cultural attitudes in certain cultures, for instance, may be related to low rates of alcohol dependency. Overall, many religious sanctions and social customs can become a social diathesis, making an individual vulnerable to consumption of alcohol as a coping strategy to everyday stressors in life. The effect of exposure to positive media portrayal of alcohol has been linked to increased social acceptance of alcohol consumption. Although in India, advertisements of alcoholic drinks have been banned, yet, movies, TV shows, and popular songs display consumption of alcohol as a cool activity. Psychosocial stressors. According to diathesis stress model, having biological and psychological disposition and socio-cultural acceptance is not enough to develop alcohol use disorder. A person must be a. Exposed to the substance, b. Living in an environment that promotes alcohol use, and c. Experience of stresses and pressures in life. For example, Millie had gone through a major change in her life, moving from school to college, in which she found herself to be overwhelmed by professors' demands for extensive written projects, reading assignments, and oral presentations. She had also simultaneously experienced the painful experience of dissolution of a romantic relationship with someone who she had known since school. So all these stresses influenced the risk of substance use, alcohol in this case. Interpersonal relationships, psychiatric, marital, and legal problems in family are related to drug abuse, and lack of emotion support from parents is linked to increased use of alcohol, cigarettes, marijuana, etc. Excessive drinking, for instance, often begins during crisis periods in marital or other intimate personal relationships. Marital partners may behave towards each other in ways that promote or enable a spouse's excessive drinking. Conversely, excessive use of alcohol may lead to marital disputes and even domestic violence. The stresses of family crisis can further lead to an increased substance abuse issues. Role of stress reduction. Mood alteration is one of the primary purposes of abuse of psychoactive drugs. People continue to use drugs to escape from unpleasantness in their lives, escape from physical pain, opiates, escape from stress, nicotine, and escape panic/anxiety, benzodiazepine. For instance, it has been reported that about 42% American soldiers in Vietnam War became addicted to heroin. Substance abuse is high amongst victims of child sexual abuse and in case of individuals facing acculturation difficulties like migrant laborers and those living in slum areas. It is also high in children of parents with substance abuse, who may abuse substances to get away from the stresses at home. A typical person who abuses a drug may be undergoing excessive stresses in life or may have low tolerance to tensions and stresses that may initiate alcohol or drug consumption to relieve the stress. This can become reinforcing and may lead to increased use and abuse of alcohol. This model has been criticized as it underestimates the role of motivation in alcohol addiction processes. If we were to solely use the tension reduction causal model, we would expect alcoholism to be more common than it is. Also, it does not explain why some excessive drinkers are able to maintain control in society and others are not. Some scientists place higher value on the importance of individual motivation on development of alcohol dependency. A person consciously or unconsciously decides to consume alcohol. Those who are not motivated are able to find more constructive ways of reducing stress. 4.7 Treatment of substance use disorder. Etiology of substance use disorders involves a combination of biological, psychological and socio-cultural factors. Moreover, fewer than 25% of people who have significant problems with substance use seek treatment for the problems, making treatment of alcohol and drug use a challenging task for individuals and medical professionals. Treatment involves multiple components. Typically, the first step is to help someone overcome the painful withdrawal process with the ultimate goal being abstinence. In use of certain substances, like caffeine, the goal is to limit the use of the substance to a definite amount, for example, 2 cups. Biological treatment. Use of medications is extremely important in the withdrawal processes of certain substances. In case of abuse of certain drugs like heroin and alcohol, medications like sedatives are prescribed to deal with the disturbing symptoms of withdrawal in presence of a medical professional. Moreover, in certain cases medications are important to minimize the effect of dangerous withdrawal symptoms like seizures and heart attack. Biological treatments are also aimed to substitute the pleasurable experience of alcohol with negative experiences or find other substances that provide the similar positive experiences without the addictive qualities. In case of psychoactive drugs like opiates, antagonist drug like naltrexone is given to the addict that blocks and cancels out the effect of opiates and also produces immediate withdrawal symptoms that are extremely unpleasant. In case of alcohol antagonist, acamprosate is used that decreases the cravings in people dependent on alcohol. It has been found that using antagonist drugs are useful in combination of other therapeutic efforts. Aversive treatment involves associating the substance of abuse with a drug like antabus, that produces feelings of nausea and vomiting. In case of nicotine abuse, silver nitrate-laced gums are given that produce a bad taste. This is a successful approach only when clients are extremely motivated to continue taking them outside of supervision of a doctor. An alternative approach to associating aversive experiences with substance use is to find substitute drugs that produce similar positive experiences of the abused substance. For instance, heroin addicts are given the alternative methadone, which has the pain-reducing qualities of heroin, but may not always make the individual addicted to it, especially when it is used in combination with counseling. In case of nicotine addiction, nicotine patches, gum, inhaler, or nasal spray may be used. They lack the carcinogenic elements of cigarette smoke. Over a period of time, individuals are able to taper their usage to minimal and finally give up on nicotine. In few cases, however, individuals may become addicted to the substitute substance, like nicotine patch in case of nicotine dependency. Psychosocial treatment. Biological treatment of substance abuse in isolation is not very effective treatment of substance use disorders. Most individuals also need counseling support and therapy. A number of programs and models have been developed. First, inpatient facilities are designed to help the individual successfully go through the withdrawal process along with support of mental health professionals who provide them with counseling so that they can successfully go back to their family and work life. However, in most countries including India, inpatient facilities are extremely expensive and may be unavailable and inaccessible to many sections of the population. Outpatient care is relatively cheaper than inpatient care, can also provide effective treatment for substance use intervention. Under its National Drug Addiction Program, the Government of India has funded about 483 detoxification and 90 counselling centres across the country to treat people with substance use disorders. About 45% of people seeking treatment in these centers are for alcohol dependence disorder. However, many of these centers are finding it hard to function in recent times because of lack of funding. Alcoholics Anonymous, AA, is a global support group of people who identify as alcoholics and want to help themselves. The organization is designed to be independent from the medical community and is a self-supporting group of anonymous individuals who see alcoholism as a disease and want to empower individuals to abstain from its use. The anonymous aspect of AA meetings helps individuals seek help without experiencing stigma and judgments from others around them. AA proves to be effective of highly motivated individuals. AA is also present in India along with many similar support groups that provide individuals with social and emotional support for their addiction processes. Such support groups have also been formed for other substances like Cocaine Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. While Alcoholics Anonymous aims for total abstinence, certain programs have been developed that emphasize on controlled usage instead of total abstinence because they feel that complete abstinence may be an unrealistic goal for many addicts. The goal of these controversial programs is to enable social usage of substances like alcohol, replacing it with substance use. Over the years, some researchers especially in United Kingdom have used programs focused on controlled usage, whereas in other countries like United States, abstinence-based programs are used. In general, most programs involve some form of aversive therapy where the substance of abuse is associated with aversive stimuli like a painful shock when drinking a glass of alcohol. The goal is to replace positive associations that an individual have of the substance with negative associations. Another behavioral strategy, that is contingency management. It involves identification of behaviors that are then reinforced through tokens or other kinds of rewards. For instance, in one study, cocaine-negative urine sample was rewarded with cash vouchers. Community-based approaches in the recent times have helped us understand why individual-based approaches may not be effective for everyone. In a community-based approach, substances abusers are helped to identify a spouse, friend, or relative to be part of relationship therapy that may help them improve relationships with important others. Abusers are also made to identify social situations that might influence them to abuse, such as friends and certain social situations like parties and get-togethers, where the substance will be commonly used and abused by others. Clients are given assistance with employment, education, and finances to help reduce their stress and improve their overall functioning in life. Finally, new recreational activities are discussed and encouraged to replace substances that would previously help them feel good or distress. Most psychosocial programs towards the end focus on relapse prevention, or help prepare individuals to stay clean on their road to recovery. For instance, Cognitive behavioral therapy helps remove the ambivalence about drug use by making patients examine the positive beliefs they may hold regarding substance use and abuse. For example, drugs make me look cool, and confront the negative consequences of its use. Every time I start doing drugs, my grades fall. Identification of high-risk situations, for example, extra money in my pocket, fight with friends / parents, break up with boyfriend / girlfriend, etc., and strategies are developed in advance to deal with these situations along with craving that an individual may feel. Incidents of relapse are dealt as incidents that can occur instead of a globalized sense of failure that may inevitably lead to more substance use. Prevention programs. Mental health professionals have focused on developing programs that not only help in treatment of substance abusers, but also programs that can prevent future possible use and abuse of substance in high-risk populations like teenagers and young adults. In general, these programs have focused on peer pressure resistance training, correction of beliefs and expectations that make them prone to abuse substances, inoculation against mass media messages, and peer leadership. Individuals are taught enhancement of self-esteem, social skills, and resistance training. Just say no. The results are mixed. While self-esteem enhancement has been shown to be not very effective, resistance and social skill training proves to be effective in case of girls. It is important to understand, since etiology of dependency of any substance involves an interaction of biopsychosocial factors, an effective program needs to implement and effect change at multiple levels involving several stakeholders including the individual, family, neighborhood, peers, schools, colleges, media, government, private and non-governmental organizations. 4.8 Let us sum up. Now that we have come to the end of this unit, let us list all the major points that we have already learnt. Substance dependency or addiction refers to more severe forms of substance use disorders characterized by tolerance and withdrawal symptoms that greatly affect many areas of one's lives and causes a significant amount of distress. Alcohol negatively affects various parts of the body. In excessive and frequent alcohol abuser, brain accumulates diffuse organic damage even when no extreme organic damage symptoms are present. Development of substance dependency is a complex process involving the addictive property of the substance, constitutional vulnerability, diathesis, and environmental reinforcement and pressures, stresses. Use of medications is extremely important in the withdrawal processes of certain substances. Biological treatments are also aimed to substitute the pleasurable experience of alcohol with negative experiences or find other substances that provide the similar positive experiences without the addictive qualities. Biological treatment of substance abuse in isolation is not very effective treatment of substance use disorders. Most individuals also need counseling support and therapy. Substance abuse prevention programs work towards preventing future possible use and abuse of substance in high-risk populations like teenagers and young adults.